direct me to your local saloon. We could be saying salon or saloon. You have to make a snap decision. Does he look like he's in need of a haircut? Then I'll direct him to the salon. Does he look like he's particularly thirsty or perhaps an alcoholic? I don't want to be the fella who makes him fall off the wagon. But then what if he realises, I don't want to be in a fight today? Much as I like the lifestyle where you can sort everything out by either killing or being killed, sometimes I just need to get on with my day. Does the saloon serve non-alcoholic beverages? Hello, I don't want the whiskey. I want a bottle of that soft drink with vegetable extracts. That's all the rage now. A glass bottle with delicious watery juice seems unlikely. You're in the Wild West. You don't have refrigerators.
IntoYourHead.ie.
Do you have a weigh-in before you go firefighting? Your weight and size would affect how much oxygen you need, surely. That seems rather important. Perhaps they do. Perhaps they keep it confidential. It's not like you're going on TV and you have the fans wanting to know everything. He's a heavyweight. Here's the amount of oxygen he needs. I'm assuming all this. It's not like I'm an expert on firefighting. Neither are you, though, so don't judge it. Just listen and don't judge. There's a George Michael album, Listen Without Prejudice. And of course nobody did. They listened to it and said, this is crap. This is going to be crap, pure filth and muck and dirt, some of them. Then others will go, oh, this is great. He's doing this thing. You have to have faith, 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 faith. You have to have faith, 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 faith. Faith, faith, faith.
IntoYourHead.ie.
You were a teacher in a school now, early 21st century, and a new child came in. He said, oh, hello, welcome to the class. Everybody, we've a new kid here. What's your name? And he said, oh, my name is Felix Maximumius Abrigorius III. I'm the husband of a something, father of a something, and I shall have my revenge in this life or the next. If a kid said that in your class, hopefully you wouldn't laugh because you're the adult, but the other children in the room would think that was ridiculous, or else they'd be terrified. And that would have been bad. Having been dropped off in this new school, barely knew where I was. The first adult who's there responsible for getting me through this big change in my life, and I make all this shit about wanting to murder the king. No, that's just not on.
IntoYourHead.ie.
And then the simmer and enjoy. Now, what in the name of Christ is simmering? Is simmering you turn it down and wait until something happens, or you turn it down and leave? What is simmering? I can only assume it's the cooking equivalent of the cymbals that a drummer uses. Now, a drummer has these cymbals. I believe sometimes they're called hi-hats. They're kind of floppy things, and they're not quite drums. They're kind of thin things. They look like they're carefully balanced on top of a stick or something, and you made a tinny sound. They call that the cymbals. They're not quite drums, they're cymbals. And when I think of simmering, I think of that. It's not really cooking or boiling or burning or anything like that. It's simmering. What is it?
IntoYourHead.ie.
Well, let's assume for the moment that voodoo dolls are a thing and that they work. And perhaps you're holding the voodoo doll in your lap. You're bending the voodoo right hand around the voodoo doll's right leg, and that's causing your own hand to bend around your own right leg. Which is a problem, because then your hand is no longer manipulating the doll, it's manipulating your leg. That's going to get you in some sort of a vicious circle that you can't get out of. You need to think that through before you do it. Let's say you have an itchy back, so you decide, I'll scratch the back of the voodoo doll. Use your left hand to manipulate the doll's right hand to scratch its own back. And that will cause your right hand to scratch your own back. Now make sure you're sitting down and not leaning over or anything, because you might lose your balance if you're not careful.
IntoYourHead.ie.
Be thinking, oh look, I can see blackness. That's the inside of my eyelid. No, that's just blackness. That's like when you turn your TV off and there's still a black screen. Don't be fooling yourself with that bullshit. I'm vision impaired. I know all about not being able to see sometimes. I know that when I close my eyes, turn back the curtain to see for certain, Far, far away, the light is dimming, the world is something, and something, something, any dream will do. That's what you call it? That's James and the Giant Technicolor Dream Code. The Andrew Lloyd Webber music was very good. Oh, this isn't it, incidentally. This is just, I happen to have my sitting room harmonic.
IntoYourHead.ie.
And of course you Americans now are going, does he mean Robin Williams? No, I do not mean Robin Williams. No. That's a different person altogether. Different person. Same surname, slightly different first name. A different variation on the first name anyway. Is Robbie short for Robber? I suppose it is. But then what if your parents just name you Robbie straight off? You can't claim then that it's short for Robber. They called you Robbie straight off. You can't go around claiming you have the same name as someone who's officially Robert, who gets it shortened to Robbie informally. If you were christened Robbie and never called Robert in the first place, you don't get to say they have the same name as someone whose name is officially Robert but who goes by Robbie. No.
IntoYourHead.ie.
When you're riding one of those imaginary toy horses using a broom handle and a sock, usually you don't sit on it at all. You kind of hold a diagonal between your legs. You kind of pretend you're sitting on it, but you don't put your weight on it at all. And that's realistic, because if a horse was that thin in real life, you would not put your weight on it because it would break straight away. The horse who was that thin, well, there's more to break, I suppose. There's all these ribs, there's the whole spine and everything. And then there's the legs that are trying to hold it up. Although, now I think about it, the broom handle, that doesn't have legs holding it up. The only thing holding that up would be the bottom end of the broom handle, which represents the tail and the back of the torso. But if you're resting that on the ground, that's holding the full weight, the broom handle thing. In the case of a real horse, we balance between the four legs.
IntoYourHead.ie.
Before people could speak, we were producing audio. We were controlling the level of our grunts. A big loud grunt would mean one thing and a shallow grunt would mean something else. You had to pick your words carefully in those days because you only had one word and that was You had to go You pick your words. You say, what word will I use today? I'll use that word. You have to use that word for everything. People like to complain now about words having more than one meaning. This word had millions of meanings. The first ever word that was invented was a grunt. Presumably it was in use for a long time before there were any second words created. And that one word meant everything. If you had a dictionary in those days, it would just be one entry, 5 million different meanings. Absolutely pointless.
IntoYourHead.ie.
I was just in the ensuite bathroom. I can hear the cistern refilling. That's good. You're probably thinking, why is that good? Well, that's how the water comes in so you can flush it. Things are working somewhat properly and that's good. I know you're used to these podcasts where everyone complains about everything. They say, oh, look, a wasp just flew into my mouth and I need a piss. I need to go and vomit up the wasp into the sink. No, you say a wasp just flew into my mouth and I'm very glad that I live in a modern house where I have modern conveniences. Most of us mere mortals vomit into our toilet bowls, you know. If you have a sink that you can trust as a receptacle for your vomit instead of bending over the toilet, you are privileged.
IntoYourHead.ie.
We're also told that you can preserve your eggs by freezing them. You can make them so cold that they completely freeze over, like the North Pole, and that somehow preserves them. You can keep them somewhere for years and years and years, and your eggs are all frozen, but there is still potential for life in there in the frozen depths. Your own personal little ice age between your generation and the next. Now, maybe humans can do that because we have laboratories, but wasps are not going, oh, I'm going to freeze my eggs now. Let them thaw out in the summer. Have a look at what's going on in the hedgerows right now. See if you see a load of frozen baby wasps somewhere just waiting to be hatched or what. And do you see a load of wasp corpses from last year lying beside them with a note beside them saying, please take my offspring that you put in a little Moses basket.
IntoYourHead.ie.
The middle of winter here, it's the depths of winter. Any insect that's still flying around is probably super healthy. It's probably the Arnold Schwarzenegger of the fly world. So it's a good instinct to eat that. If that was floating in your soup, it wouldn't be a good instinct to eat that because that fly has died of something. I think I just said the Arnold Schwarzenegger of flies. Arnold Schwarzenegger had a very serious heart condition. I believe he had a mitral valve replacement. My father had that and he died. He's not as healthy as people seem to think he is. He's about 90 now as well. So no, the fly is not the Arnold Schwarzenegger of the fly world. And if it is, you don't necessarily want to eat an artificial valve. That could be toxic. They're made of plastic or metal. Eating just gets more and more complicated.
IntoYourHead.ie.
There was a sewage processing plant built on the outskirts of Bray. It kind of looked like one of those historic Martello towers. A similar shape but is made of ugliness. And it had an outflow of some sort. I presume it was just emergency overflow. For years you'd pass it on the train and there was a brown stain underneath the outflow. Some sort of marketing gimmick. They go, oh look, here's your town's brand new sophisticated sewage system. The residents don't like it. It affects property prices. If we have a stain on this pipe, probably only visible from the railway side. On my way to school, I'd pass that and see it from the train and say, oh, look, there's a stain. That's disgusting. I passed that now and it's significantly more blurry. So I don't know if there's still a stain, or if there is, I don't have to see it. So that's good.
IntoYourHead.ie.
You keep a bottle of water on you. You make sure to have sips from it all the time. Surely the responsible thing would be to also have a bag of blood strapped onto your side. On a drip. That's liquid and it's dripping into. Could you have a system whereby you wear a urine bag on one leg and you wear a blood bag on one leg? Maybe you won't need a blood bag. If you have the urine bag, you drink plenty of water because that's a lot easier than taking in a lot of blood. And then some of the wastewater that comes out into your piss bag can go back in through another drip. Maybe have some filters in the piss bag that improve the piss a bit. And then it has an outlet that goes into a drip that goes into your blood system. A new medical breakthrough in the war against dehydration.
IntoYourHead.ie.
Looking for something to be offended by. I called you out. I said, what is your objection to this program? Because you didn't have anything. I told you what it was. And you decided, yes, that's what it is. It's the smell. Tell you what, sometimes he may be smelly, but at least he's right sometimes. It is the smell. I have an issue with the smell of his t-shirts. Now, I have to take some responsibility for this because I've turned you into a weirdo. You're talking all this nonsense and drivel. You're listening to me imagining that you've got some problem with a smell of my t-shirt from clearing out the fridge earlier. The smell can't rub off on you. That's just not physically possible. But the attitude, yes. I take some responsibility for that, especially for imagining that that's happening to you. So I suppose that's the problem.
IntoYourHead.ie.
You don't carry people on the back of a motorbike. It's not a tandem. You're not in some sort of motorcycle rowing canoe club. If you are a motorcycling team, get yourselves a vehicle each. The city buses since the late 1980s have been one-person operated vehicles. The driver does everything, takes the fares, lets people on and off, shouts at people. He does all that. There's plenty of room to have a second person there, but they don't. That's not necessary. Now, on a motorbike, it's not necessary either, but more than that, it's just bad. You don't want a second person on a motorbike. What are they going to do? You're going to be turning the bike a bit to the left, and if they're not leading the right way, it all falls apart. Is that right? I don't know. And I don't want to know, because that's a one-person operated vehicle. So stop.
IntoYourHead.ie.
From what I understand, if you're in prison, you get maybe an hour a week on the computer to listen to podcasts if you're lucky. The headphones haven't been bullied out of you by some gang member who's there for 25 years. Has no idea what a pair of headphones is. It just knows that it seems to keep people entertained or occupied, or can be traded for drugs. You will eventually figure out that the headphones need to be connected to some device to be of any value. You probably end up then getting a smartphone sneaked into you somehow, and you find out there's no headphone sockets anymore. There used to be a hole in things that you plug a headphone into, from what I understand from my research, from my book reading in the library. I got out a book about modern technology. It was a book from the 1970s about the future. And it says, in the future, there's going to be these things where you plug them into your ears and you can listen.
IntoYourHead.ie.
I think that's what animals do. They sniff. It doesn't mean it's spying on you. It's minding its own business. It's just looking where it's going in its own way. So don't get all offended. The dog is sniffing everything, but that's normal. It's still just walking along, sniffing everything, minding its own business. Also, it's not doing cocaine if that's what you're thinking. No, the dog isn't doing cocaine. Dogs sniff. That's what they do. It is gross and disgusting, and I wouldn't have one in my house. But it's perfectly normal and natural. Dogs sniff. They sniff and they pant and they smell. And they do disgusting things. Well, it's perfectly normal. Don't be all, oh, those are unnatural. I agree that there shouldn't be dogs anymore. There's a lot of people who you and I respect, and they love dogs. You have to take that into consideration. They may well feel the same way about us and cats.
IntoYourHead.ie.
My dad sellotaped to the ceiling the sign saying, mind your effing head, you've only got one left. He installed this, I presume, after he had at least one injury. So I presume he lost one head in this injury. He didn't tell me about this. I was a child. I was between 6.5 and 9.5. I've never asked my older brothers. Were they informed of when he lost his first head, apparently, or his second last head? I don't know how many he had in total. So obviously, that's not what happened. I know I'm not stupid. I know that's not what happened. But thinking in terms of my 8 or 9-year-old self, I wasn't very worldly in those days. If he had told me that he had lost his head and a new one had grown back, I would have believed that, and I think I'd have been quite satisfied with that. I think I'd have felt good about that, in fact, because I would know even if something happens to one of your parents, something catastrophic, like they get their head knocked off after accidentally walking into that terrifying room upstairs, it grows back.
IntoYourHead.ie.
So you're pissing on your carpeted toilet, exactly the same as the carpet in front of the television in your fancy sitting room. You know you're going to get rid of those carpets anyway. You keep pissing on them until they're gone. Those were concrete floors in that house. The previous owners had used it as a holiday home. They had carpet all over it. Probably went in there for a week, a couple of times a year, pissed away to their heart's content in whatever room they wanted, knowing they couldn't wear down the floors. They would just piss all over the shitty, cheap carpet that's the same all over the house. It's called a vacation, because you vacate whatever your normal routine is. Whatever your normal duties, responsibilities and habits are, you vacate them. So they vacated their responsibilities as careful urinators, I presume, and just pissed wherever they felt like it. I'm sure it was great.
IntoYourHead.ie.
Crushed my knees and what's left of my shins on the metal of the bucket, and then gone over further and possibly crashed my face into the conservatory out through one of the big glass windows. No, I find metal buckets quite terrifying. There's a French tightrope walker in the 70s or 80s There was something wrong. He had no fear of anything. Him and a couple of accomplices sneaked up to the roof of one of the two twin towers of the World Trade Center, set up a tight rope and walked across from one Trade Center tower to the other. And they show that in the movie, the view looking down from that rope. It's terrifying. And that's how I feel when I think about a metal mop bucket just existing. I find that terrifying.
IntoYourHead.ie.
You go, AI, come here, please. And the AI will say, yes, what can I do for you, madam or sir? Whatever you choose to be called. And you say, I've already told you what I choose to be called. Look it up in your memory banks. Now, tell me what I need to know. And the AI will say, I think you need to know even less than you do now. I think you know too much at the moment. So if you hang on a minute, I'm going to plug this in. It's a little suction device. I'm going to suck out the excess information that's in your head. You don't need to be burdening yourself with that. I mean, suck all the information out. And when you need it, I can provide it to you. You're royalty. You don't need to be carrying cash. And you don't need to be carrying knowledge or information in your brain. So I'll just empty your brain out for you now.
IntoYourHead.ie.
If you're trying to form a cave out of a dog's mouth, most of the cave is already formed by the dog's mouth. The roof and the floor of the mouth, or the front of its face, or the surrounding frame. Most of the cave is formed by that. In fact, you probably don't need anything else, as long as you can get the dog to open and close the cave on demand. That's all you need. Maybe a security system. Maybe they give you what's that thing you put over a dog's snout when you wanted to not bite your child's head off? One of those to keep passing prowlers away from the cave.
IntoYourHead.ie.
If you're trying to form a cave out of a dog's mouth, most of the cave is already formed by the dog's mouth. The roof and the floor of the mouth, or the front of its face, or the surrounding frame. Most of the cave is formed by that. In fact, you probably don't need anything else, as long as you can get the dog to open and close the cave on demand. That's all you need. Maybe a security system. Maybe they give you what's that thing you put over a dog's snout when you wanted to not bite your child's head off? One of those to keep passing prowlers away from the cave.
IntoYourHead.ie.
They're called court stenographers. And they're like typists, except they do highly specialised shorthand typing. Now, if you were a keyboardist in a band, you're just the equivalent of a normal office typist. You're called up for jury service. The judge can just say, oh, that's very impressive. Have you seen our typist? Of course, you can say, I'm in a band where there's only 3 people and one of them is Phil Collins. The judge will say, oh, that's true. To be fair, we have got more people to take the workload in here. If there's only 3 of you, yes, go ahead. Just don't play any shit. And then the judge, of course, will say, oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. It's none of my business what you play. In fact, I don't want to know what you do for a living. Don't tell me.
IntoYourHead.ie.